Actually, you know what? I have something else for Sal, and I don't know if he's going to enjoy this or hate me for it.
Boy.
Sal, have you thought about Week 18 Sunday Night Football flex options yet?
Oh, not for a while yet. I did think about it maybe earlier this year a little bit, but I haven't, and probably because I never considered the Bills to be one of the options, as opposed to a couple of years ago when we were trending towards maybe the Bills and Dolphins, and it ultimately did happen.
Right. A couple times recently, there hasn't been a great game for it. Like sometimes there's an obvious game, division, championship, loser, Indianapolis, Houston. Maybe that was a Saturday, but losers out, winners in, one of those kind of games. But you're going to like this year. Since you haven't thought about it, I'll take this opportunity to tell you, I think you're going to like this year. So 4 possibilities at least that will work for Sunday night, the final week of the season. Lions-Bears could end up being big. Seattle-San Francisco.
They were in this game last year, Lions, right? That was
the Lions and the Vikings.
Them and the Vikings, right.
Seattle-San Francisco, I don't know if we want this, but they're a half game apart for the division lead. Tampa Bay, Carolina, maybe by default, could end up being in that game. And Pittsburgh-Baltimore, which would be the sexiest if it comes down to, like, winner of that game wins that division, loser is out of the playoffs. That'd be good.
Sexy, except
it'll be 16-15.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
How does 18-15 come off sexy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a year. Well, you never know. It could change. But right as of now, Sal, it's not a year where, we're going to have to force something into that spot.
No, I like that. There's definitely some good options there. I think most appealing would be either Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or the Lions and Bears. I mean, yeah, Seattle and San Fran would be okay. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but I like the other two options a little bit better than that. I think that Pittsburgh thing is really interesting because what's happening now with Rodgers, the Ravens are obviously much better now. They're healthier, and they're a game back, and they play each other twice. So the thing I'm thinking about more and more lately is the Bills as the 5 seed traveling to Baltimore as the 4 seed in round 1.
Yeah. I mean, not crazy at all.
No.
To think that could happen.
What a hell of a prize that would be.
That AFC North is quite likely right now to be the 4. I mean, the other division leaders all have 2 losses. And Baltimore wins against the Jets and Pittsburgh loses to the Bears. Baltimore's in first at 6-5. So there's a pretty good chance that division winner will be the 4. And we'll see how the rest of it falls.
Unless the Colts start falling off here, and they do play the Chiefs this week, and they have a tough schedule coming up. And I could see the Ravens, especially here, I would say, the North winner catching them if they were to fall like that.
What about the Bills in this, Sal? I mean, of course, it's New England first to think about, but Indianapolis, New England, Denver. Denver plays the Chiefs again. The Colts play the Chiefs Sunday. And, the Patriots play the Bills and the Ravens. I mean, we could have a year where 4 or 5 losses, well, at least 4, ends up on top of the conference, right? And if you're the Bills, like, that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, except the fact that it looks like the Patriots are, poised to have a really great opportunity to get that 1 seed, even with all of that happening because of their schedule. I mean, this week they obviously get now no Burrow, no Henderson, and no Jamar Chase they have to go against, right? So even a loss there that you thought maybe could happen is going to be a little bit more difficult. I mean, the Jets will maybe even be a tougher out with Tyrod playing, and they did play them tough, so you never know there. Maybe Miami at the end of the year they can sneak up because we've seen that happen, and Miami's playing a little bit better now. But you can't count on the Patriots losing any games here. And even if the Bills do beat them head to head, they need one more loss. The Bills need to kind of win out basically in that scenario. They still have one more win than them, I guess, because of the division record, unless they were to drop a division game, like I said. So I agree, but it's the Patriots are the fly in the ointment here, Mike. And it just looks like a very tough climb for them to have to falter off. Not for the Bills to have to necessarily win, but for the Patriots to fall out of that spot, even with the loss to the Bills.
Are we thinking that they're that good? Right. I mean, that's been the point the whole time with New England. Are they good enough to just beat everybody? And so far, they kind of have. They've won 8 games in a row. By the way, Bulldog, I did the thing yesterday I was critical of other people doing, and that's not a good way to be in life. If you're the Bills, you would want X. Sal is not the Bills. I should have known that when I phrased the point that way.
Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yes.
No. But I'm glad you brought that up. It reminded me of something. Sunday, watching the Chiefs and Broncos, and it was, well, who do you want to win that game if you're the Bills? Because Max says to me, don't we want the Chiefs to win? And I'm like, well, you could make that argument. And I think I'll go back to what I said to you guys a couple weeks ago. I think no matter who won that game, you just want them to split. I think that's the way to go about it. It didn't matter who wins the first game. You want the other team to win the second game without knowing anything yet. Now we have more information we can base that on. But I think the point would be, if you think the Bills have a chance, Mike, as you lay out, to maybe get a 1 seed, you're going to need Denver to lose. That might need to be to Kansas City. And now that's okay, since they already beat Kansas City one time, to keep them down a little bit lower.
Because I had a really hard time with hard. I mean, I'm sitting in my couch drinking a beer watching the game. So, I mean, but I was kind of tangled up about it, because I remember one of the things I was happiest about when the Bills beat the Chiefs a few weeks ago was like, okay, I kept them from getting another win, and now I can, with a clear conscience, root for them to beat Denver. And then the game starts, and you know what I found out? I can't do it. It's really hard for me to do. Everything that was happening in the game, my natural reaction was, good for Denver, bad for the Chiefs. That's getting the reaction. And I thought objectively that was not what I wanted to do, but I couldn't control myself.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
So hopefully when they meet again, I can be what's best for the Bills. This is what I want, even though it's really challenging.
Yeah, you can't really sometimes in life just choose. It chooses you.
Right.
Who you want.
This is what we need to happen. I need this to happen. Even though I don't like it, I need it.
So, Sal, what today is new in injuries?
Only one thing, and that is Fedarian Mathis was limited. Everybody else is pretty much the exact same as yesterday. I think it's exactly the same as yesterday. But that's it. And, McDermott said beforehand when we talked, he said it's, it'll be like a walkthrough again, or he said it's a walkthrough again. It was probably a little more than a walkthrough. In fact, I will say that we generally don't get to watch walkthroughs, but we were able to watch practice. So I think they did more than an actual walkthrough, but I think the team kind of treated it like a walkthrough, you know what I mean? Because they're not going real hard with a game just coming up on the heels of this last game and so many guys banged up especially. But Fedarian Mathis, defensive tackle, he was limited today. Even after McDermott said he wouldn't practice, he was listed as limited.
So no Samuel again, no Hardman again. It's the game is in 2 days. They fly tomorrow, you fly tomorrow, and then the game. These short weeks, they come at you fast. With 2 receivers not practicing yet this week, I might want to lean towards them both missing this game. And how wide does that swing the door open, if at all, in your opinion, for Keon Coleman to get back in the lineup?
We should also mention no Shakir for 2 days.
Oh, right.
Reasons.
Yep.
So you hope that everything's okay there. I wouldn't have any reason to believe it's not, but you hope everything's okay there. Let's just assume it is, and he plays, because if that's not the case, then certainly you're going to need Keon Coleman to play. But I was going through this exact same exercise with our buddy Josh Reed while we were waiting to get in, and I'm like, let's go through the numbers, like who's going to play, who's not. I think this really, a lot of it depends on how they view Hardman as an actual receiving option versus just a returner, because today they re-signed Brandon Codrington to the practice squad. That's an indication to me that they would elevate him to just be the returner for this game. So now you don't have to count Hardman as a receiver anyway, even though he did get on the field in that capacity. Now, that said, I think it's just a straight-up switch, Elijah Moore for Curtis Samuel. I mean, that seems kind of the way they played it this year anyway.
They've taken turns, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, right? So I don't think that should really impact. Now, Gabe Davis already has 1 elevation. He only gets 3. You could decide to elevate him again, and after last week's performance and the way the offense worked, I don't know why you want to do anything differently. So I would think that maybe that is the case. That said, also about Gabe Davis, after everything, him rehabbing and going through everything he did to make sure he's healthy, and he coming off a game 4 days later, we don't have that information on how they feel that he came out of it to, conditioning-wise, health-wise.
Right.
Not to say that there's any concern there, but you just know how these teams think and how they want to make sure they manage these guys. So I do think there's a chance that Keon Coleman could play. I just don't know what the mechanism would be for how the roster would work to make that happen.
Yeah. I sort of wonder on Davis, Sal, whether he's ready to play a game so soon after making his debut after all that time off is one thing. If he is, I wonder if the Bills want to see how he comes through that before making a decision to actually sign him to the roster. Because a lot of people might just say, like, why not just sign him to the roster? You know who he is, you trust him, but his health has been a problem, and this is a quick turnaround. If he comes through, like if he gets cleared, he's okay to play Thursday in Houston and comes through that okay, then I think it's time to put him on the roster. And that's just my guess, because you don't want to do that and then have him get hurt anyway, and then you're just wasting, it's paper, but whatever. I think they would wait until he gets through another week.
I agree, but I also don't know it's too soon to do that, because you would have one more elevation remaining you could still use. By the way,
right.
You like what? Because if you do that, you got to release
somebody else, right?
And I don't know where that comes from right now, unless you're releasing Samuel or Moore. I don't think it'd be Tyrell Shavers at this point for what he's offering you in, two phases of the game, basically. You could put Nicole Hardman on IR if it's that bad. It didn't seem that way in the locker room, guys. Like, we talked to him after the game, and I think I told you this the other day. I said, did you not play because you put the ball on the ground or because of the injury? And he kind of just shrugged off, put the ball on the ground, like, no, it's because of the injury. But he then, we'll see how it goes this week. Didn't seem like anything, but you never know, right? He just came back. He's had injury concerns before. It's a calf injury. Like, if they feel maybe you have to put him on IR, then that does open a roster spot for a guy like Gabe Davis, but you also don't have to rush it with 2 more elevations remaining.
Right.
Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. The Bills visit the Houston Texans Thursday night. Buffalo up to -6 on the spread, 6 and 43.5. The total isn't moving, but the line has moved from 3.5 to 6 in the Bills' direction since Sunday. Some of that is C.J. Stroud, but it had already moved a bit already, before the news. Maybe it was just expected that he'd miss. What do you think of this matchup? The Bills were just there last year, and that was a very difficult day for Allen and their offense, and they certainly could have won that game, but don't in the end. Is Houston a problem for the Bills? Either side of the ball here, Sal. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think Houston's a problem on their defense for any team in this league. They're averaging 16 points given up a game, less than 17, and 16.89, whatever it is. It's number 1 in the league. I mean, you just don't score on this team that much. They have the number 1 overall points per allowed. They have number 1 yards allowed. They are, I think, number 1 against the rush, number 3 against the pass. I mean, you look at every metric. The only thing they're not like top 10 in is sacks per pass attempt. They're 11th in that, I believe. I mean, they do everything really well at all 3 levels. I would hope the Bills wouldn't struggle like they did last year there, because that was like the ultimate, oh my God, that was terrible looking on offense, and Josh Allen was not good in his numbers. I mean, I don't expect anything like they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers either. I think people have to have some expectations here and temper that after watching what the Bills did, because if they were to do that against this team, then oh my God, like, okay, here we go. Like, let's start going back to what this team was a few years ago on offense, and because this is the type of defense that you're not going to be able to do that to. Now, that said, on the other side of the ball, this Houston Texans offense is without C.J. Stroud, like you said, but with a quarterback in Davis Mills who is not afraid to throw the ball. They trust him. He's thrown the ball close to 90 times, guys, over the last 2 games. And Nico Collins had a big game last week, and they can hurt you with Nico Collins through the air. What they aren't is the kind of running team that the Bills have faced the last couple of weeks, like the Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins. They will try to run the ball against the Bills because everybody runs the ball pretty well against the Bills. But the Bills should be able to at least do something better against this team running the ball. And if not, then they're going to have big, big issues.
We talked a little bit about this yesterday, and my first thought on this matchup, as great as that defense is at all three levels, the edge guys get a lot of attention, rightly so. I think that between the two of them, it might be 17 sacks, 9 and 8, Hunter and Will Anderson. And I don't have like my mind's eye. I can't recall. I know it was a rank game from the Bills on offense overall, and Allen's numbers were really bad. But he was only sacked one time in the game there last year. And my first thought on this matchup was, I'm going to trust Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. I am excellent on my line overall, and especially at those tackle positions. I'm not expecting them to pitch a shutout against those dudes, but I don't know that I have to settle for they're just going to wreck my game, because to me, that's a strength-on-strength matchup.
Yeah, I get it. Totally. I think, though, the Bills have had some issues against teams with exotic pressures this year and where they're coming from. And these guys this is a team, this is a Houston Texans defense that's just very physical at the point of attack. They just want to come at you. That's what they do. This is not the same thing as like a Todd Bowles defense. It's not all this schematic, really trying to fool you. Mm-hmm. Look at the first series, what happened last week. Here comes an unblocked blitzer. That's not how they make their business. Well, how they make their business is saying, we're just better than you. We're going to straight up beat you. Our guy is better than you. We're going to be physical with you and beat you up throughout the game. And I think in that regard, if the Bills at least know where they're coming from, now you just have to win your one-on-one matchup and get Josh Allen enough time. And for that standpoint, I like it because I like the Bills guys as well. They are missing Petrie, by the way, their safety, who is a very good player for them. And he's a key player for them. He's like a Taron Johnson for the Bills. When he's out, you kind of worry about that because he plays down the box, he plays a nickel, he plays back to the back end and does a lot for them. So maybe that's an area where if the Bills feel that they can, gain an advantage, in the passing game or even in the run game like that, they can do it. But I think as far as the pass rush is concerned, I'm going to trust those guys as well.
Buffalo and Houston, there's a lot of history, not just with the Texans, but also the Oilers before that, all the way back to the 60s. Who would you say has sort of the upper hand all time? The Bills have the comeback win. They have a AFC divisional playoff win in 88 against Houston. Houston has the win. The Texans have the win over the Bills.
19. Yeah.
Both teams have both cities, I'll say, have taken their turns. It's been a good, long rivalry.
Yeah, you're right. I think back to when you bring up the games, it's funny. It's not just the comeback game. That was a big one. But I remember I was at the first ever playoff game, as I'm sure maybe you guys were too, inside Rich Stadium. And that was, Tasker causing the fumble on Curtis Duncan. By the way, his college roommate at Northwestern, Curtis Duncan, forces the fumble at the end of the game on the punt. The Bills beat the Oilers in that one too, in the wild card, right? And that was a really good game. There is a lot of history here. It does go back quite a while. So, it's fun to think about some of those games of the past, even when it wasn't the Texans. But then, of course, the Josh Allen experience in that 2019 game and the Bills, blowing the lead. And that was, a game where I thought the Bills, should have come out of it, should have won. They're probably a little bit too much before their time. The next week, the Texans blow a big lead in Kansas City. Remember that?
Yeah.
They go in the playoffs, and the Kansas City comes back and beats them. But, yeah, interesting history and rivalry between the two.
Who among Bills quarterbacks in the regular season only has the most passing yards against Houston? Against the Texans.
JP Lossman.
Are we going back? Or are we just Texans?
Just the Texans.
JP
Regular
Lossman.
Season. Ooh, that's a great answer. Did Fitz? Let's see. I'm gonna agree with Bulldog and say JP.
Lossman is right. 2 games. His first ever game. Jason Peters catches his first touchdown, and that was not a prolific performance.
No.
But then it's the game with Lee Evans where he hits 2 80-yarders in the first quarter. That helps.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Yeah.
That helps with the stats. It's very close.
And was that the same game? Was that the same game that Peerless Price caught the game winner in the back of the end zone?
I think so. Yeah. Allen would be the answer if you included the playoff game. He's second anyway in 3 regular season starts against Houston. Then Bledsoe. It's pretty spread out. No.
The last time the Bills played in the, well, it was 2 times before, but They did play Davis Mills a few years ago. Do you remember that game? It was like in the rain, 41 or 42-0. The Bills beat them, or 40-0, whatever it was.
40-0, I think. My son fancies himself as a Texans fan. I pressed him last night. I really couldn't get him to defend it, too. I mean, I'm not sure it's really still there.
Come on, Dad. I was a little kid.
Yeah, a little bit. But he went to that. That was his first Bills game, and he went with a Texans hat. I wouldn't let him wear Watson. He had a Watson jersey. It's like the only time I've ever told him, no, you can't wear that. And it was Davis Mills. And in the Scott Fishbowl Bulldog, you'll remember, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Where one of the guys, charity fantasy football draft, one of the guys in the draft my son was volunteering, he was just helping out with stuff at Big Ditch. And he gave his pick to Julius. Like, why don't you make my pick? You're doing a good job here. I don't really care. You do it. And he picked Davis Mills in the first round of that draft.
Careful what you wish for there.
Davis Mills is back in our lives this week. Quickly, Sal, do you think that's a big deal? I know we talked about this a little bit already, that it's Mills and not Stroud.
I mean, I'm a big C.J. Stroud fan, but I recognize he's had a big regression, right? Now he's had a couple of nice games. But honestly, like, the way he was playing most of this year, I don't know. I mean, Davis Mills can run an offense very effectively. He can throw the ball. I guess at the end of the day, you'd rather face Mills than Stroud. He's a backup for a reason, and Stroud has put together some really nice performances. But I think Davis Mills is very smart. He's played. This will be his third game in a row now where he's played, and he understands where to go with the ball. So yeah, I think it's a big deal from the standpoint of you're missing your starter. But I think that the way C.J. Stroud has played, it's not like there's this huge drop off right now.
Very good. Thanks for your time, Sal. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right, guys, you got it.
That is our Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. His appearances, are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? Yes, Mills has played